All right, the Utah Jazz lose to the Grizzlies. Let's talk about Drew Eubanks, Keyonte George coming off the bench, and some interesting numbers that are telling us some important truths about this Jazz team. Let's talk about it. It's the Hoops Nerd postgame show. All right, guys. So the Utah Jazz lose to the Memphis Grizzlies. Let's talk about a few things. The Utah Jazz came into this, and they had, the first thing we're going to talk about is they had a lineup change. Keyonte George came off the bench, and Isaiah Collier and Colin Sexton started. It's interesting. I think basically at this point, maybe the Jazz are just thinking that Keyonte George is a shooting guard, and Isaiah Collier is the point guard. It's very clear that Isaiah Collier is just a high-level playmaking point guard. It's what he does. He's good at it. He's been averaging a high amount of assists. Even tonight, where I felt like, he kind of struggled at times in this game, he still ends up with 8 assists. The Utah Jazz could not hit a shot. They shot 25% from three, and Isaiah Collier still ends up with 8 assists. It is hard to argue with his ability to play the guard position. He's 6'4". He's big. He's a better defender. I'm kind of curious to look at his defensive LeBron numbers, just because I'm kind of starting to really like that metric, because I think it really pans out. And yeah, I want to just keep kind of seeing how that kind of measures out. In fact, I'm going to bring this up here so we can kind of all look at it together. But anyways, it's an interesting thing. Isaiah Collier gets the shooting guard position, and I think at this point, Keyonte George just has to start kind of hitting shots. Tonight, the shot wasn't falling again. 3 for 15, 0 for 8. It was a tough night for Key. He did have 7 assists, which is great. So he's definitely improving, and it's not something to start setting alarms off about. But he does have to figure out how to get those percentages up. And some of the shots he takes, he's just got to be better at. You've got to stop taking really bad shots. And sometimes it's just, you just got to make them. I mean, he just missed shots tonight. He's been trending up from his shooting, but the last 2 or 3 games has not been good. And what we are seeing from Isaiah Collier is that his actual three-point shooting is getting better. I know he only took 2, but that's a good example right there. Shots not falling, Isaiah Collier's not taking it. And so instead of going 0 for 8 like Key does, he goes 0 for 2, which is just flat out better. It just is, It doesn't mean that Keyonte George can't still become the thing that a lot of us are hoping he can be. It just means that, you know what, we got to have patience, and he's just got to earn it. It's a tough league, and these are things you have to improve on, you have to do. So it is what it is, but I tell you what, Isaiah Collier might be a pretty special passer, and the Jazz might have something pretty special there because he plays both ends of the floor. He is extremely tough, strong. I mean, his passing is inarguable. You can't. I know he had 4 turnovers tonight, and his turnovers are not good some nights. But you know what? 8 to 4 still. I don't know. I'm really excited about Collier, and he's starting to get a little buzz with the betting for Rookie of the Year. I don't know if he'll get it, but he certainly has a shot. But I kind of wonder if Isaiah Collier has just kind of earned that starting point guard role. I think he definitely has, at least as of tonight. We'll see if it changes next game and what happens. But he's the starting point guard. Colin Sexton starts at shooting guard. Now, I think that at this point, and the reason I actually like this, I think this is a very good thing, because I think this gives Keyonte George a chance to just absolutely earn his spot. It's basically a fight between Keyonte George and Colin Sexton. I think the Utah Jazz would love for Keyonte George to play at a level that just knocks Colin Sexton out of that starting shooting guard. But at this point, he hasn't done it. He has to do it. And this right here is great culture, because what this means is that there's no bias. And, we all have our biases. I've had my bias with Keyonte George, 100%. But you know who doesn't have bias, and what makes him such a good coach is Will Hardy. Isaiah Collier has earned this role, and he got it. Now, we'll see if it continues that way, if they keep doing it, or if this was like a one-night try it out. But I like that this is happening. And for Keyonte George to earn that shooting guard role, he's just got to earn it. He's just got to shoot better, outplay Sexton, play better defense, take better shots, knock down the open shots you're getting. All that's what he's got to do. And tonight was an example of it not really happening. He was passing the ball, which is great. 7 assists is awesome. And he had some really nice little moments here and there, but 3 for 15 is not good enough. And 0 for 8, it's just not good enough. In the future, Utah is going to go for a championship. That is the goal. That is why they're doing this. Anyone who is against it, it's fine. You are entitled to your opinion, and that's great. But if you are not understanding why they're doing that, it's because you don't understand what it takes to win a championship. Utah does not have their superstar that can lead them to being an actual contender yet. They just don't. And that's why they're doing this. I was reading Mark Stein. If you don't read Mark Stein, it's great. He was talking about the Miami Heat, who, by the way, I hate the tanking and how can you do this? It's an atrocity, blah, 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 blah. Well, go read Mark Stein's most recent piece and go read about the Miami Heat who don't tank. They refuse to tank. They think that is just vile and they don't do it. Well, they are absolutely clawing, scraping stone to try to get over the wall that is the playoffs and to earn their spot, because if they don't, the decisions they have made to stay in contention have crippled them. The one that's absolutely destroying them is the trade they made for Terry Rozier. They made a short-term trade to try to get Terry Rozier, and it's absolutely hurt them. So basically, if you go read Mark Stein, what's on the line, and I don't understand the ins and outs, but I was reading him earlier today, is that the Miami Heat, if they do not make the playoffs, let's say they fall to 11, they do not convey their pick. Their pick is lottery protected. If they don't, then their pick next year becomes completely unprotected. And who does it go to? The Oklahoma City Thunder. Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. So they are just clawing and scraping just to make the playoffs. And I don't know if they do not win the play-in, do they go into the lottery? And does that pick stay with Miami if they're in the lottery? Maybe, but it's very low percentage that they win because they will be at the end. If they do not convey it this year, it becomes completely unprotected. And what have we seen from the Miami Heat, who are completely capped out, have no assets because they've already traded them all to get to where they are now? Does anyone think they're going to be better next year? I mean, Kel'el Ware's showing some nice signs. Maybe Bam Adebayo takes a step up, but they are in hell. They are in absolute hell. And so the moral of this is that who would you rather be? The Miami Heat, who have no control over their future. They're just trying to win any little game they can. And the only reason they're at where they are is because they're in the Eastern Conference, the Leastern Conference. This is the easy stuff. Like, you got to beat the Chicago Bulls to make the playoffs. Not too bad, not too hard. It's pretty grim for the Miami Heat. Now, you look at the Utah Jazz. Yes, they're losing a ton of games. But guess what? Utah has a direction. They have complete control of their future. They have a treasure trove of assets now that they can either just use to draft players or they can use in the future. Like if Utah wins the lottery this year, and if they, depending on what happens this offseason, and if they're able to make some sort of trade, who knows, then they have the treasure trove of assets to either make a trade to bring another star in, or they just let their team continue to develop, which is probably the smart thing to do. Utah has John Collins, Jordan Clarkson, and Colin Sexton all on contract next year. They do not have cap space next year. They don't. And they do the following year. It's why I think what we see now from this contract year, next year, kind of tells you what the Jazz are going to do. It makes a lot of sense, the trade they made before that I talked about, the Phoenix Suns trade, where they consolidated those picks into one really nice, it's the difference between having like 3 dimes, and the Jazz traded 3 dimes for 1 gold silver dollar, or 1 gold $1 piece, whatever you call those, the Sacagaweas. That thing is so nice. So nice. And Justin Zanuck, I think it was not this game, but the last game because I watched we watched it on playback, and it tends to have us watching the opposing announcers. But anyways, Justin Zanuck was on and talked about that pick. And part of the reason they made that trade is because that pick has a legitimate shot to become the number one pick when it conveys. And it 100% does. Why? Because teams like the Phoenix Suns and the Miami Heat run their team in a way that just never, ever bottoms out. And what that does is when your contracts go to pot, like it has for Miami, like it is right now for Phoenix, you have no way to get out. It is what happened with the Brooklyn Nets that ended up getting Jason Tatum to the Boston Celtics. It's exactly what happened because all they did was made these big time trades. They traded everything they had. So for Darren Williams and Paul Pierce and all these guys. But then when those guys age out and there's no way to move forward, there's nothing you can do. You are in cap hell. You lose games. You have players get injured because they're older, things like that. You can see it happening. So that Phoenix Suns pick, anyone who doesn't like it, come on. And maybe Phoenix just gets lucky and something, maybe they make some sort of move or get some sort of free agency move out of nowhere. Like there's this random player that wants to play in Arizona. Who knows? But more than likely, it's going to happen a lot like what happened to Brooklyn, and Utah's going to end up with a really nice piece. I mean, Houston got a Brooklyn Nets pick from last year, and it turned into like the number 3 pick, right? So would you rather be the Miami Heat and the Phoenix Suns right now, or would you like to be the Utah Jazz who have an actual plan and are looking to build superstars on this team? And then they will have other supplementary picks. The pick we don't always talk about is this Minnesota pick. Even if, let's say it's like 19, this is kind of looking where it's going to be the ceiling of this pick. Minnesota is just not going to go on a huge run. They just aren't built to go on big winning streaks. This pick is going to kind of be in this range. The Jazz are going to get another nice supplementary role player in this. And, they got Filipowski in the second round. Utah had, probably their best pick from last year is looking like Isaiah Collier. He's looking like an absolute stud. They got him at the end of the first round. This draft is really great, and when you go look at this mock, there is so much talent in this draft. It's a great one. I mean, Dre kind of makes fun of me because I'm just a big fan of Derek Queen. I just think that guy is going to be good. I have just no doubt that he's going to be good. But you know what? Liam McNeely at 17, he played with Cooper Flagg at Montverde, is an absolute shooter. Just an absolute shooter. And Utah's going to get someone like that. Hugo Gonzalez, before the season started, was slated to be a top 5 pick. And he's dropped, but he had a big... Was it him? Or no, it was Traore that had a big end to his season. But this guy right here, Hugo Gonzalez, is like a 6'6" defensive player that you could bring in and potentially develop and turn into something. I don't know. I'm kind of curious what his stats were. He definitely dropped. Yeah, his shooting is not 40%. Okay, so maybe that's why he's dropped the shooting. But Utah's going to be able to look at all these different players and find a nice player. They found Collier. They found Filipowski. So if they can get top tier with this pick and then get someone in this range, my gosh, go get Derek Queen. Come on, Danny. Go check the Derek Queen film. I think he's going to be really good. Another player that played with Cooper Flagg at Montverde. That Montverde high school team is ridiculous, by the way. Derek Queen, Liam McNeely, and Cooper Flagg. Holy cow. Holy cow. Anyways, I don't know. The moral of that is that Utah has a great culture, and I guess I got on a tangent there, but I love the direction Utah's in. They're making such smart moves. Danny, Justin, Ryan deserve all the credit. I know I've been pretty hard on them a couple times, but overall, and the way they've run things lately, you cannot argue with what's going on. It's fantastic, and they have solidified their spot. They're thinking about the future in a great way, and I think next year we might be looking at a lot of this, but you know what's going to be really fun next year? A starting lineup of Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper or Ace Bailey or VJ Edgecombe. Oh, look, they just put VJ back at 4, and we got a little bit of interesting note about that. But anyways, Imagine that, where it's Isaiah Collier. Maybe Utah gets VJ Edgecombe. Okay, let's just talk about it. Danny Ainge was at the University of Utah tonight watching them play basketball. I thought Danny Ainge was a BYU fan. I thought he liked BYU. Turns out, well, no, it doesn't turn out. Guess who Utah was playing tonight? VJ Edgecombe. VJ Edgecombe played tonight, and let's just see. Let's look and see. What did VJ Edgecombe do tonight in front of Mr. Danny Ainge? He played 38 minutes. He was 44% from the field. He shot 66% from three. Yeah, he's shooting actually like, what was it, Dre? I don't know if you're watching tonight, Dre, but he's like upper 70s, lower 80s at the free throw line. So he obviously had a bad free throw night. But 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 2 steals. He had 4 stocks in front of Danny Ainge. And this Utah Jazz team, who struggles for defensive talent, this kid is going to be fun. The villain needs to come to Utah is kind of what I'm thinking. If Utah does not get one of these top 3 picks, I really am starting to become a fan of VJ Edgecombe at 4 because of the athleticism. The shot is coming along. He's now, for the season, I think, shooting 35% from 3. It's just continually getting better. He's a player that just improves. He's a very willing passer. I don't know if he's going to be like a focal point of the offense kind of guy, but he can definitely play within the offense, pass the ball. He had 3 assists in this one. You know? So he can play make. I don't think he's the focal point yet, and I don't know if Utah has that yet. But he could absolutely be such a nice player. And I guess if next year, I mean, would that be fun next year? Honestly, Isaiah Collier, VJ Edgecombe, I guess Lowry Markkanen, Taylor Hendricks, and Walker Kessler next year, and you're starting to build around that? I don't know. It's pretty fun. And then I guess if you get someone else in this, who knows? There's so many possibilities. I mean, the best thing ever would be that the Minnesota Timberwolves pick comes up here and Utah just gets to pick, like, that's me just dreaming, okay? If you could have one wish, I mean, if I had 3 wishes, I think that's definitely one of them. Utah gets the 1 and 2 in this draft. Can I be super fit and be able to eat whatever I want? Can I have unlimited money? And can the Utah Jazz get the number 1 and number 2 pick? That's what I would do. Ultimate fitness. All right, let's see. So, anyways, Danny Ainge was there tonight, and he was watching, and I'm excited because I think he got a good feel for what VJ Edgecombe could be. It's a great draft, guys. It's a great draft to be bad. It's really bad. Or it's really good draft, really great. The Jazz are bad. It's a bizarro year for the Jazz, by the way. Good is bad, winning is losing, losing is winning. Up is down, down is up. I don't know. Right? Because up is down because you're looking at these standings, but it's the lowest, but they're the highest, right? Everyone's confused. All right, what else did we talked about? Oh, we got to talk about Drew Eubanks. I love freaking Drew Eubanks. This was incredible. What an incredible pickup this was. Just absolutely one of the most important signings for the Jazz in the last 10 years. I mean, top 10 maybe. And everyone's like, what? What? Drew Eubanks? And I'm like, yeah. As free agency signings go, absolutely. It's up there with Chris Dunn. Because Chris Dunn was that guy last year. Well, this year it's Drew Eubanks. And why? Oh, because of the fight with Ja Morant and Zach Edey. Now, if you didn't see it, well, partly because I think he was frustrated. Keyonte George, you could tell, was probably in his emotions a little bit about coming off the bench, which all of us would. That would not be fun. And this is like a difficult thing. These are these guys' lives, and this means everything to them. And so I'm sure Keyonte George had some emotion, 100% warranted, and it's, it is what it is. Anyways, he gets in kind of a scuffle. Ja Morant, this one, I think it was Scottie Pippen Jr., I can't remember, tries to pull the ball out of Key's hands, and he doesn't want him just ripping the ball out of his hands. So he pushes him away. And that's a normal NBA player thing to do, to not let someone just pull the ball out of your hands. Come on. What are you doing? And so Key kind of swipes his arms away. And then Ja Morant comes and kind of tries to kind of punk Keyonte George and shoves him in the back. And Keyonte goes face to face with him. And Drew Eubanks runs over and says, no, this is not going to happen. You are not going to do this. He shoves Ja Morant out of the way. The refs kind of have to stop a scuffle that happens because of it. Drew Eubanks standing up for his teammate and his guy. And that's freaking great. And if you don't understand why that's important, then you don't understand sports. You don't understand basketball. You don't understand what it's like to be on the floor. There's a poem. I want all of you to go listen to it. I'm giving you some homework right now. I want you to go to YouTube in your free time and listen to the speech by Teddy Roosevelt called The Man in the Arena. Go listen to it. It is the best. It is the best. Go listen to that. And basically, that poem absolutely perfectly shows what was going on tonight. And if you don't understand what Drew Eubanks did tonight, then you don't understand what it's like to be the man in the arena. The gist of it is that if you have not stepped into the arena, if you have not been in the fight, if you have not been criticized, if you have not had to put yourself on the line, then you have nowhere to talk. And the fact that Drew Eubanks comes out of nowhere, because he is a man in the arena, he knows what's going on. He goes up and stands up for his other guy that is in the arena right now. This isn't gladiator combat, but it's certainly an arena, and it's certainly a lot of people watching, and it's certainly a fight going on. And Drew Eubanks goes in, and he says, no, you're not doing that. And absolutely was awesome. Awesome. And if anyone has anything to say against that, then you know what? You don't understand. And I tell you right now, every single one of the Jazz front office loves it. Loved it. I loved it. It's the reason you bring that guy on your team, because when you are in that moment, you need that guy. It's the reason guys like Charles Oakley are just absolute legends for the teams they played for. It's because they were the enforcers on that team, and the Karl Malones on the Utah Jazz that said, you will not do this on my floor. This is my teammate, and you are not going to get away with it. And that's why I loved it. I loved it. It was incredible. And so what happens next is Zach Edey gets annoyed, and I guess Zach Edey's doing the same thing for Ja Morant. He goes and shoves Zach Edey under the backboard on the other end of the floor. They go back. Zach Edey waits for Drew Eubanks, and Drew Eubanks puts his shoulder right into Zach Edey, knocks him back, and then they have another scuffle, and then they throw. I guess Drew Eubanks is the only one that had anything that he did wrong tonight, and he gets ejected. I loved it. I thought, the game changed after that. They got rid of Drew Eubanks. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the Jazz looked a little less invigorated after that. They did not look quite the same, because that guy that stood up for everyone was removed. And I feel like it was unfair, because I think Zach Edey was doing the exact same stuff to him, but to avoid some sort of fight, they had to sacrifice somebody. So it was Drew Eubanks. So anyways, moral of this story, Drew Eubanks absolutely earned my respect forever. I hope he's on this team next year. I hope he's on this team for a long time. That is a man in the arena. For sure. For sure. Was awesome. Was awesome. And you know who else appreciated it? I mean, honestly, think of Danny Ainge. Has anyone been punched in the face more than Danny Ainge? Who? Go YouTube Danny Ainge punch. You're going to watch him get punched all the time. He understands. He gets it. You think Keyonte George and the other guys in the locker room don't appreciate that guy? Because now what do now you know that guy's got your back. If you're on the floor with that guy, I've got your back, you've got my back from here on out. And they can do whatever they want. But we're not going to back down, and I know that guy's there for me, and I'm going to be there for him. If you want to talk about culture building, that's culture building right there, right? These guys are with each other, 6 to 8 months? They're in these literal arenas every other night, playing against all these other guys. Everyone's fighting for contracts. The Grizzlies were trying to punk Keyonte George. You're fighting legit athletes trying to make highlights out of you. So I tell you what, those guys are absolutely going to rally around each other. Doesn't mean the Jazz are going to win any more games this year, but they for sure have been bonded, in my opinion. I bet. And it made me think of, you guys remember, it was like, and I know Cody Williams turned his ankle really bad. Hopefully he's not too bad, but he might be out for a little while. But it was like 2 weeks ago, Cody Williams turns his ankle under the basket. Or no. Cody Williams makes an and one 2 weeks ago. And Cody Williams has struggled. Does anyone here think that Cody Williams has had a season that we hoped for? No, including Cody Williams. I promise you that Cody Williams wanted to have a Rookie of the Year season, and he's struggled. Just a fact. So anyways, 2 weeks ago, Cody Williams drives to the basket, gets fouled, makes the and one. Who runs up to Cody Williams and is like cheering him on big time? Drew Eubanks. Shout out to Drew Eubanks. That dude earned a spot in my Jazz heart 100%. He is now a Jazz man for life, in my opinion. I hope they re-sign him for the next 3 years, because I tell you the other thing he's doing, and these are coming from stories from the writers, but he absolutely brings it in practice. I don't think it's any coincidence that Walker Kessler looks tougher this year. And you know who might have helped with that? Walker Kessler probably has to bring it in practice against Drew freaking Eubanks, who is not going to back down. He plays tough. I bet his elbows and his shoulders are sharp, and he's strong. And Zach Edey, who's like 2-3 inches taller than him, he fell backwards. You know what I mean? So Herman Munster got backed up is what he did. Okay? Drew Eubanks is not afraid of Herman Munster. I'll just tell you that much. So anyways, did we talk enough about Drew Eubanks? I hope so. He deserves all the flowers, all the credit. I don't know if he deserves a statue yet. Maybe. Should we give Drew Eubanks a statue? Why not? Let's just turn the Jazz Stadium into like ancient Rome and make statues of incredible moments. Wouldn't that be sweet? Like, in like the Colosseum, how it used to be before it crumbled and everything, you had statues just all the way around of emperors and famous writers and whatever. Like, wouldn't that be sweet if the entire Jazz arena and stadium was like statues, and honestly, stone statues would be really cool, of just famous Jazz moments, like the Stockton shot. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think that would be really cool. Maybe just a statue to all the greats. Darren Williams, Andre Kirilenko, Karl Malone, and John Stockton have one. We don't have a statue for Jerry Sloan. I don't know why. Why do we not have a statue for Jerry Sloan? Why don't we have more statues? What is wrong with us as a society? Everything's only built for money. Can we not have statues for great moments and great people to remember? Come on. Come on, America. What are you doing? Come on. All right, let's talk about the next thing. Let's see. Utah had a really rough night, and I felt like tonight really kind of showed where the Jazz truly are. I mean, it shows that, any given night, Utah can be extremely competitive with most of the teams out there. And Utah, I mean, Will Hardy's incredible, but there are nights like tonight where the talent is just not quite there with the opposing teams they're playing. Like the Memphis Grizzlies just are more advanced, they're more developed, and they have kind of more top-tier talent. Ja Morant is a top 3 pick. He was picked number 2 overall, and he showed why. He's just an absolute elite talent. Utah wanted to draft Zach Edey, but they weren't high enough to get him, and he looked pretty good tonight. What did Zach Edey do tonight? Zach Edey was 5 for 8. He had 19 points, 7 rebounds, 5 block shots. Utah just needs to just find that cornerstone guy like the Grizzlies did, and then you build around him with supplementary talent that you either draft or trade for at that point. But like we talked about earlier, you have to have that cornerstone guy. You cannot build a house until you have the cornerstone and the foundation built. You just can't. Otherwise, you are building a house upon the sand, okay? You have to build around a cornerstone player. That's what Utah's going for. That's what they're trying to do. You build your house on the rock or you build your house upon the sand, okay? But what I'm trying to say here is Lauri Markkanen, and it's an interesting question. I don't know if he kind of gets it that the Jazz are not trying to win, and I think there's definitely a part of it to that. And Markkanen got his money. I don't think Markkanen's too worried that he's not making the All-Star team. He's probably happy to get a nice week off to be with his family and his kids, right? But Lauri Markkanen is the best player on the Jazz, right? He's the best player on the Jazz. He can't go in isolation. He is a catch-and-shoot three-point shooter who can make plays in transition, and he can do a little bit in the post, but it's not been very good. He was 5 for 14 from the field today. He got the ball stolen by a rookie at one point. He was 1 for 8 from 3, but he was actually, I would say it's more 0 for 7 because this 1 3 he made was in garbage time with like 3-4 minutes left. I don't know. I think Utah they're on the right path right now. They are on the right path. They are doing the right thing because Utah needs a cornerstone guy. It is what it is. And tonight really showed it. The Jazz were just not going to win this game, and that's fine. Because you just need a cornerstone guy. And you need these other guys to develop. And I really like that Collier got the start, to be honest. Because one of the things the Jazz are going to do over the next 2-3 seasons as they draft these high-level guys is you've just got to let the best players earn their positions. And that's what's going on. When you draft all these young guys, you've just got to develop them. But eventually you have to let the best ones play. And that's what's going on. Collier is looking pretty much like a steal for Utah. There were some concerns about the shot, and it was pretty concerning to start the year for sure. But over the last, in fact, let's go to Basketball Reference, and I'll show you. Isaiah Collier is just figuring things out. But anyways, I guess I'm losing train of thought here, but you look at every single player on the Jazz. Most of the players tonight really struggled outside of Elijah Harkless. Let's see. Collier, let's go to his last. Where did he make a 3? So I guess we'll go here. So this is his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is his last 8 games. Are you guys going to pull this up for me? Come on. It's still loading. So anyways, while that loads, let's just talk about this. So I guess, actually, the players that had a good game tonight, it's almost easier to just talk about who had a good one. Walker Kessler had a solid night, 11 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks, 2 steals. Solid night from Walker Kessler. One of the things that's been so nice about Walker Kessler is his consistency. He is just becoming very consistent and absolutely figuring things out for the Jazz. The Jazz are going to have to make some interesting decisions. I wonder what they're going to pay him when contract comes up, because it is coming up. He's got 3 years. This is his 3rd year. So we're coming up on the 4th year. They're going to have to make a contract decision next year, and it might get interesting. I don't know if this is going to load. But you can see that Collier is starting to hit his threes pretty regularly. There we go. So in his last 8 games, he's playing 30 minutes per game. He's shooting 40% from the field and 36% from 3. That's his last 8. That's starting to be a pretty good sample size, right? And then when you look at the assists, 8.4 assists, 10.8 points, 8.4 assists, 4.1 rebounds, only 0.5 steals. I'd like to see that more of those, but overall, you got to be pretty happy with what you're seeing from Collier. Like, this is really exciting stuff, and this is partly why he probably earned the starting point guard. 8.4 assists is no joke, And you look at some of these assist numbers, they were pretty impressive, like 11, 11, 10. I mean, this right here is earning you the starting point guard role, for sure. 11 assists in... look at this. He had 10 assists in 26 minutes. That's crazy stuff. That's crazy work. That's really great. So anyways, I'm impressed with what the Jazz are doing. I like it, and it's the right thing to do. Utah does have some questions to ask themselves next offseason about Lauri Markkanen, though, because he is having a down year for sure. This three-point shot, he's now in like, what, 37, 38% territory? Come on. 11 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. I mean, that's just not good. For a guy that in 4 years is going to be making $54 million, come on. So Utah, if they get some offers next year, it'll be interesting to see what they do. If they should have traded high last offseason, I don't know. We'll see. He is available, and I think there will be teams that think, well, he's probably not trying very hard because he knows they're losing. Utah's going to get some offers for Lauri Markkanen. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And the reason I think it's interesting is because they've got 2 young players. They're going to probably have an elite talent come in, unless we have just the worst luck ever. But even if the Jazz have the worst luck ever, they're still getting the number 6. With this 2, the worst they can do is 6, guys. That's the worst they can do. That's incredible. The worst they can do is Trey Johnson, Yegor Demin, Kalman Malawach. I mean, that's pretty exciting. Traore, if you really like him, but you got Collie. I don't know. Utah really is in a great spot here. And so, I mean, obviously you want to get this top 4. This is going to be where you're really excited. But Utah's in a great spot. And they are going to get Taylor Hendricks back next year. And we know what he can do defensively. And this is what I'm talking about is, you know, let's see. I want to pull up the defensive LeBron data, but if you can replace, we talked about this before. This is the defensive stuff. We're just looking at defense, and maybe we'll look at offense too for fun. I just like looking at this stuff. I think it's pretty fun. But let me bring this over. This is the LeBron Basketball Index LeBron tool. It's really good. I like it because it feels like it does a good job of just showing some of the things, and it does pass the eye test for me. One of the things, so look at, these are the best defensive players in the league, and some of this is, you've got to kind of weed out the backups. You know, Goga Batadze is a good defender, but he's defending against benches. Mo Bamba, we need to do like a minute. Let's do minimum minutes. 1,000. Okay, there you go. So you now are looking at the best defenders in the NBA. Victor Wembanyama, look at Ivica Zubac at number 2. Rudy Gobert, Jared Allen, Jalen Duren. Wow, Amen Thompson. Remember when we wanted Amen Thompson? I wanted Amen Thompson so bad, guys. I just want to cry. We could have had, I was going to say, can I get an amen all year long? That's why you tank, because even if you don't get Wembanyama, look what you get. The number 6 defender in the NBA. That's why. That's why. Amen Thompson is just such a beast, guys. Such a beast. So anyways, this makes a lot of sense. Now, let's go look at the worst in the NBA. Get ready. I hope you're excited. Oh, look who the worst defender in the NBA is. No. If you want to know why the Jazz are losing games, it's Colin Sexton, Keyonte George, and Lauri Markkanen. There's questions to be asked this next offseason, because you cannot win a championship if 3 of your starters or 3 of your rotation, I mean, Keyonte George didn't start today. If 3 of them are 3 of the worst defenders in the NBA, it's crazy. Look at Devin Booker. That's crazy. That's not a good sign for Phoenix. Let's see if we can change this to Utah. Like if you're just these are guys that have at least 1,000 minutes. Let's run this. Oh, but we got to put it as Utah. All right, here we go. So the best defender on the Utah Jazz, Drew Eubanks. Did I tell you that I love Drew Eubanks? Because I love Drew Eubanks. Obviously, Walker Kessler is better than Drew Eubanks, but this is impressive that Drew Eubanks is doing this against bench units. So you got to remember that if Drew Eubanks is outpacing Walker Kessler, it's because Drew Eubanks is doing that against bench units. In some ways, I'd look at this as like, you probably should have like see, look, rotation role starter. So let's just go to rotation. Let's take out the... Okay, there we go. So these are the Utah Jazz rotation players. Kyle Filipowski, look at that. Positive defender. KG10 to TH5, $2. Sexton equals Young Bull, more like Young Matador. That's amazing. 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 But look, is that not cool to see Filipowski? Filipowski, I would call bench. Look at this with Cody Williams. If you want to sign, you should not be giving up on Cody Williams at all. Look at that in his rookie year. Pretty cool. Isaiah Collier. This is what's kind of exciting. It's his rookie season. He's going to get better. You can see that if you put, let's see, let's remove this. You can see that Isaiah Collier has a chance to be at minimum average defender, if not a good one. He plays hard. He's strong. He moves quick. He gets steals. I'm excited about it. Johnny Juzang shows up pretty well. But then you look at the defenders here. It's crazy that Lauri Markkanen is this low. Like this low. You know, you got to ask yourself some questions this offseason. Keyonte George. I love Keyonte George. You know how I feel about him. But he's got to be better defensively. Got to be better. What's going on here? Colin Sexton. Utah needs to trade Colin Sexton. 100%. They just got to. I love Colin Sexton. I love the fire he brings, but you can just see the numbers don't back it up. And then Walker Kessler, you can see he is for sure a high-level defender. This is against starting units. He's started all year. He looks great. This is for 2025. Fantastic. Fantastic. You can't argue it. And then you got to look, you've got to think, what about these teams that are like top tier? Let's look at OKC just as an example. Look at that. Look at that. If you want to know why they're going to win a championship, look at that. Isaiah Hartenstein, Casey Wallace. Look at Casey Wallace. Did I not tell you about Casey Wallace? Did I not talk about him a lot? Jalen Williams, Alex Caruso. Look at SGA in the blue. Look at Dort in the blue. And the guys that are not playing all that much. So they are absolutely title contenders, if not the contenders. Let's look at Boston. Boston's slumping right now, but look at that. Look at that. You've got to be this level of defender to win a championship. Utah has got to get them. And so Utah does not have... In fact, let's go to 2024. Run it. So this is last year. Look at Jonathan Isaac, number 1, Rudy Gobert, Victor Wembanyama in his rookie season. Holy smokes. No, this is year 2, I think. Pretty amazing. Let's go look at Utah. Walker Kessler was awesome last year defensively, at least according to this. Look at Chris Dunn. Taylor Hendricks. Look at that. Rookie season, Taylor Hendricks. I mean, are you getting what I'm serving here? You need to win on the defensive end just as much as you win on the offensive end. That's why, Keyonte George has got to figure it out real quick. Real quick. He does. You just do. Because things change real fast. And Walker Kessler's here. Chris Dunn was here, but the Jazz traded him. John Collins, look at that. Somewhat positive. Part of the reason why they can't play him or they'll win too many games. Lauri Markkanen was a little better last year. So this is kind of a sign of what Lauri Markkanen can do on a better team. So maybe this makes you think, oh, okay, maybe. But it's not in the blue, that's for sure. This is kind of the peak of his defensive ability. Simone, Kelly Olynyk, and then Keyonte George, it's not gotten much better, to be honest. In fact, that's interesting. 2024 to 2025. Let's run it. Go to Utah. What was he, 197? Well, he's got up 0.02. It's got to be better. Got to be better. But Utah needs to get about this blue, right? If you can see those other teams. What's another one? Look at what Houston's doing. They're absolutely winning tons of games this year with defense. Look. That. It's kind of it's not, it's more complicated than this, but it's not that much more complicated. You need two-way players, guys that play on both ends of the floor. Look at Amen Thompson, man. Holy smokes. Tari Eason and Amen Thompson. What an absolute monster duo. Şengün shows up pretty well here. That's interesting. Van Vliet, Jabari Smith. I mean, come on. You know what else I want to look at? Who else? Who's the other contender? We got Boston. Oh, the Cavaliers. Let's look at them. Makes sense. Look, Darius Garland. This is what makes you scared if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers. He is a major part of their unit, and in the playoffs, he's a point of attack guy. You are attacking him into oblivion. Donovan Mitchell doesn't look too great, and this is him trying, but this and this is the point of attack. Why I'm probably not putting my money on Cleveland to win the title. You know, if Boston figures it out, if they go up against let's say the Cavaliers go to the finals, but they're going up against OKC. Good luck. Good luck. You telling me this and this is going to stop SGA? We watched SGA score 54 on Utah, and I didn't even realize it was that much. You know, like he just silently assassinated the Jazz. You know what I mean? So they got great defenders in the back line. This is very Utah-esque from the Quinn Snyder era. Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert. It feels like bad defense up front, or bad defense on the back. I get all the backcourt are the guards. The front court is the bigs, but the bigs play not up front because they're behind. They're in the back because they're under the hoop, and it doesn't make sense. The bigs, good. The smalls, not as good. Me talk basketball, give idea, thought, and have channel that talk about ball and hoop. Right? So anyways, that's what I'm trying to say. So Utah has to make some decisions. You have to be a better defensive team. Utah does not have very much defensive talent outside of Walker Kessler. And, you know, I do think they have some players that can turn into that. I think Isaiah Collier with a kind of like better wing defenders could look really awesome. But like at least in that light blue area, right? And maybe in the dark blue, I don't know. But Utah only has one in Walker Kessler, and everything else is not very good. But that's what makes things like this exciting. If you go to Utah, let's say you win the lottery and you get Cooper Flagg. He is going to be dark blue, 100%. He is going to be dark blue, 100%. You're going to have at least 2 starters at that level. If Collier improves, let's say Utah goes, they've got to continue doing that. I don't think they're there yet, though. You can this LeBron is really fun because it kind of shows you've got to have about 5 or 6 of these dark blues to win the championship. That's where you got to be. And Utah's not quite there, but you can develop into that. You just have to have the talent and the athletic talent that can, with skill, that can get there. And Utah doesn't have it yet. They just don't. Now, oh, by the way, well, that's the thing. Let's say you have Walker Kessler and we're at the sort of there. Let's see if that changes it. Sorry, guys, this is going a little long, and this is just me kind of working through some of my thoughts. But Walker Kessler as a starter is your one dark blue, right? But let's say you bring back Taylor Hendricks. He's a dark blue potential. And if you get Cooper Flagg, he's a dark blue potential. And Isaiah Collier, really nice. He has at minimum light blue potential, right? Right? I guess you have Lauri Markkanen on the floor who can be sub-average, and you probably are pretty good, but I don't know if that's good enough. And if Markkanen can turn into even more prospects, and let's say you go get AJ DeBonsa, who can be 100% a dark blue caliber defender with his size, athleticism, and ability, or a Cam Boozer or someone like that, then you're ready to go. And then what gets exciting is that if that team is at that point built on a foundation of elite, high-level, young, athletic talent, and then you start getting those better Cavs picks and better Wolves picks, and then you get the LA Lakers pick in 2027, and then you get the Phoenix pick in 31. What if the Jazz are competing for titles and they look at that Phoenix Suns pick like it's going to be the number 1 pick. What if the Jazz won a title in 2031 and then they get the number 1 pick? Could you imagine? There's a world, and it's not that far-fetched, where that happens. Or maybe Utah is right there in 2031, like right there, and they're not quite over the hill, and then they get the number 1 pick. You know? That's what's going on right now, and it's exciting. It's the first real shot we have at a championship. Now, Utah may trade Walker Kessler because they don't want to pay him $25 million, and they just say, you know what, we'll build those dark blue, get those dark blue players in other ways. So this is probably a sign that maybe you should keep Walker Kessler and trade Lauri Markkanen. Just to be completely honest. Completely honest. If you want to build two-way players that defend, that get you stops, that can score, that are in the blue, you can make stops on anyone, you'd have no weaknesses. I kind of feel like I would probably, if I was being asked today, who would I keep between Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler? I'm taking Walker Kessler. Lauri Markkanen's really good, but Lauri Markkanen is going to make, on average, about $50 million a season now for the next 4 years, and he's a subpar defender. He's a bad defender, to be honest. My Commanders are winning the Super Bowl this year. Go Jazz. Go Commanders, baby. I'm actually rooting for them. The one I'm rooting for the most is the Buffalo Bills. It's go Bills, baby. This tomorrow, by the way. I hope all of you are rooting for the Bills. But Key, thank you so much, and thank you KG10 to TH5 for the $2. I really appreciate it. I guess, guys, let me know. Who are you keeping? Are you keeping Walker Kessler, or are you keeping Lauri Markkanen? Because I guess if I have to pay Walker Kessler $20 to $25 million, I can stomach that more if I'm not paying $54 million to Lauri Markkanen. You know, $54 million. Whew, that is so high, and he is not a cornerstone guy. I don't know if Lauri Markkanen's top 30 right now. He is not playing at a high level. We're talking a lot about what happened 2 years ago, but Markkanen right now this season. Guys, look at this. And this is not even including tonight. Under 20 points per game, 6.1 rebounds. And he might not just be putting in the effort, and this might be a little bit of just not playing a lot of games and sitting soon and blah, blah, blah. His minutes are down by like 2 minutes, but he's down 4 points per game. He is down 4 percentage points on his 3-point shot. He is down 6 percentage points on the 2-point shot. I mean, the thing you got to remember with this stuff, with the NBA and pro sports and managing your teams in general, is it's not like, what have you been? It's what have you done for me lately? What are you doing for me now? And it's not great. Key, $2 more. I appreciate it. Do you think we'll get first-round pick for Sexton JC? I don't know. I mean, these teams have more advanced data than we do. I can tell you right now, they're all, every single team has an analytics team. And every single one will say, like, hey, go give me a report on Colin Sexton. And some guy who wants to make his way up to the management office is going to give you the best, most in-depth analytic analysis of Colin Sexton you've ever seen in your freaking life. So they know all of this stuff. And I just think it's really tough to get in. You may get a first for Sexton, maybe a late one. Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if they get like a late first from somebody. But, you know, like the one that is heating up is John Collins to Sacramento, though. It sounds like Sacramento is interested in John Collins. We'll see. There's just a lot of like rumblings on the interwebs that make me think that something's going on. And John Collins has been pretty good, and the Kings are desperate and make bad decisions, kind of like the Suns and the Heat. So we'll see. That's all I got tonight, guys. I mean, no one shot the ball well tonight outside of Filipowski, which is nice to see, and Elijah Harkless. Outside of them, it was, I guess, Svi Mikhailuk. Shout out to Svi Mikhailuk, but he was a minus 23. Worst on the team, actually. That's crazy. Anyways, I don't know, guys. I don't know. Utah has some decisions to make. You're obviously not trading Markkanen or Kessler unless you get the price you set. Like, I think Utah's probably going to say, hey, give us 3 first-round picks and you can have Markkanen. I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't know if anyone's going to do that. So you don't just trade him just to trade him. But I think you do got to think about it. If you're trying to build a championship contender, you have to have championship caliber players. All right, so guys, that's all tonight. Let's talk. Let's see. Let's look at the lottery tonight, guys. By the way, we had a great tanking night in other ways. The Charlotte Hornets won, which is great. The man, come on. Let's see what happened. All my stuff just minimized. What's going on? That was so annoying. Everything minimized. All right. The Charlotte Hornets Charlotte Hornets won. I think, did Toronto win today? Let's see. Let's just do a quick glance while we pull up the music. So let's see. The Wolves, stupid Nuggets didn't beat the Wolves tonight. Let's see. Charlotte wins. Dang it, the Kings didn't win. Dang it. Look at that. The Raptors won. And so that puts us like 2 games ahead in the standings. It's incredible. Look at that. Utah is 2 games up in the 2 spot. They are locking it down. I could not be more pleased. Could not be more pleased. They've lost 5 in a row. Look at that. Washington's lost 13 in a row. Holy cow. They are not good. They have no redeeming qualities. Whew. All right. Well, let's see. So Utah has the 2 spot locked in. They can do no worse than 6. Let's see what would happen if the lottery was today. So Utah gets the 5 pick. The Tankathon tab. Oh, I should have brought it over. Sorry, KG10, but here we go. So Utah, San Antonio, oh my gosh. This would make me so mad if San Antonio combined Cooper Flagg with Victor Wembanyama. I would hate that so much. Brooklyn gets their stud in Dylan Harper. New Orleans stays at 3 and gets Ace Bailey. And then Utah and Washington have a decision to make. Who are you taking at 4 and 5? Is Utah lucky enough to get someone like VJ Edgecombe? We'll see. But then Utah gets a pick of all these guys. I still really like the idea of Yegor Demon. I really do. I really like him. I think he has a chance to be a really good defender too. And that's one thing that's pretty exciting. So we'll see. Pretty exciting. All right, guys. Let's give a shout out to the All-Stars. Thank you so much to everyone who's supporting the channel. I appreciate it so much. In fact, let's just refresh this fast so we don't miss out on anybody. Guys, by the way, like the channel, subscribe if you haven't already. I would really appreciate it. And let's see. Let's give a shout out to. All right. Let's give it a shout out to I Believe in Steve, the Jazz Exile, Ryan Edward Perry, the Legend, Baby Elliot Madsen, see ya, Alexa later, Christian House Money to Haas, the Outlaw. Oh, I keep thinking let's see. Jordan the Goat Best Rule, Austin our Grant Editor Extraordinaire, KG10 to TH5, and Patrick Akubo, the Connoisseur. All right, guys, so Utah would end up in this scenario with Kasparis Jakusonis. He's really nice, and that's the worst they do. Only 3 players jumped, so not too bad. And they could take Traore, they could take Trey Johnson, they could take Yegor Demon. Lots of choices. All right, guys, that's all I got tonight. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. I appreciate it. Like I said, like and subscribe to the channel. I will